Throughout history, there have been multiple states called or referred as the Kingdom of Italy, though usually most people tend to refer to the kingdom ruled by the House of Savoy. You know, the one with the Count of Cavour and Garibaldi. So to clarify, this video isn't about the many Italian kingdoms. No. This video is about the 5 kingdoms of Italy, or 6 depending on who you ask, and explain their differences, how they came to be, and how they ended. We begin in the 5th century, where the Roman Empire was politically divided into western and eastern sections, with the former's capital located in Ravenna. The west was ruled by a man named Julius Nepos, but by 475 a military leader named Orestes kicked him out of power and installed his son named Romulus Augustus as emperor of the west, though the eastern Roman emperor Zeno considered the 2 of them as usurpers. Around the same time, a military federati leader named Odoacer used this as an opportunity to come to power. In 476, after killing Orestes and exiling the young emperor to Naples, Odoacer basically turned around to Zeno and said, "I've deposed the usurpers and restored order in your behalf, your majesty." And Zeno was like, "I don't even know who you are, but good job. So are you gonna bring back Nepos to power?" Maybe. Despite Odoacer nominally recognizing Nepos' authority, he practically ruled over Italy on his own. Most historians typically consider the deposition of Romulus as the end of the Roman Empire, or at least the western part. Usually Odoacer's rule over Italy is considered its own kingdom, therefore making this the first kingdom of Italy. I personally am a bit hesitant to count it, since overall Odoacer didn't make any sweeping changes in Italy. He ruled with the support of the Senate and was recognized as duke by Zeno, and never properly split off from the empire. The problem is that Odoacer started being called Rex, or king, by his followers, something that Zeno didn't like. Plus, he still wanted to put Nepos back into power until Nepos was assassinated in 480, which weirdly enough, as far as we know, had nothing to do with Odoacer. So the Eastern Roman Emperor, or just the Roman Emperor, invited the Ostrogothic king Theodoric to take over Italy. After a brief battle, the Ostrogoths took over Italy, thus establishing the first kingdom of Italy, also known as the Ostrogothic kingdom, or as I like to call it, Italy's Goth phase. Despite being a Goth, Theodoric, much like his predecessor, ruled like a Roman emperor in everything but name. He ruled over Italy as a viceroy who nominally ruled in behalf of the emperor in Constantinople, though this arrangement was far more official compared to the one with Odoacer. The people in Italy were still considered Romans and continued to be ruled through Roman laws, while the Goths ruled themselves with their own laws. Theodoric presented himself as king of the Goths and Romans and ruled with the support of the Senate. Though as time passed, relations between the Ostrogoths and Byzantines worsened, until by 554 they retook Italy, and that's Kingdom of Italy 1 down. Though Byzantine rule over Italy was short-lived, since because of the Gothic War and Plague, Italy suffered a massive loss in population, which allowed another group of Germanic people, called the Lombards, to take over 2/3 of Italy. By 603, the king of the Lombards fashioned himself as king of all of Italy, though if you were to look at a map around this time, you soon realize that the title is a bit misleading. The Lombard kingdom was composed of 2 major parts, Langobardia Major and Langobardia Minor. The north was made up of multiple smaller duchies, while the south was composed of 2 large ones. The rest of Italy was ruled by the Byzantines. The Lombards had a mixed relationship with the papacy, since the Lombard nobility was a mix of Catholic Christians, Arian Christians, and even pagans, who ruled over a majority Catholic population. Throughout its existence, the kings would struggle to assert their control over the dukes and the rest of the nobility, especially in the south where they were basically de facto independent. As time passed, the Lombards became more and more Latinized, despite the pagan and Arian nobility wanting to preserve their own Lombard identity and warlike culture. In the end, much like other post-Western Roman Empire collapsed kingdoms, by around the 8th century they became predominantly Latin-speaking Catholics, and the people that lived within the kingdom stopped being referred as Romans and were simply referred as Lombards. Despite all of that, they still really wanted to conquer Rome, especially after they had conquered Ravenna in 751. The Pope called the Franks for help, who quickly defeated the Lombards and gave the Pope some of the land that was recently conquered by the Lombards as a donation, thus officially establishing the Papal States. And a few years later, the Lombards again threatened the papacy, and again the Franks intervened. But this time they captured Pavia, conquering the kingdom. Well, except for Benevento, which continued to be its own thing, but whatever. Thus, Kingdom of Italy too is over. In 773, northern Italy became part of the Carolingian Empire. But after the death of Charlemagne and his son, the kingdom was divided, because Salian law be like that, and by the mid-9th century the Kingdom of Italy, also known as Imperial Italy, was ruled by members of the Carolingian dynasty, all the way until the death of Charles the Fat in 887. In which a series of nobles claimed the title of King of Italy, which as you can imagine made it very unstable. This came to an end when the king of East Francia took over Italy for himself, but in the year 961 Otto became king of Italy and was later crowned Holy Roman Emperor. East Francia and Italy became the two constituent realms of what would later become known as the Holy Roman Empire. But the Holy Roman Empire was the Holy Roman Empire. Because the emperor was always in Germany, and having to pull a Hannibal just to tell those Italians to get back in line was more trouble than it was worth, the Kingdom of Italy fragmented into multiple independent city-states, which is how Renaissance Italy took shape. That's not to say the HRE didn't get involved in Italy. In fact, for some centuries, Habsburg Austria, Spain and France would compete for control over the many states in Italy, basically turning the peninsula into their own personal playground. This came to an end until the French Revolutionary Wars. Imperial Italy came to an end when Napoleon defeated and kicked out the Austrians. So that's kingdom number 3 down, and replaced it with a bunch of French puppet republics, who by 1805 were reorganized into the Kingdom of Italy, which is again just the north, and with Napoleon as its first king. In reality, it was ruled by Napoleon's stepson, Eugene, who ruled as viceroy. The Napoleonic Kingdom of Italy saw the continuation of the usage of the Napoleonic Code and establishing universal education for all children. After the deposition of Napoleon in 1814, Eugene surrendered to Austria and was exiled to Bavaria. The kingdom was later annexed by the Austrian Empire. However, as a side effect of Napoleon spreading the ideals of the French Revolution and the rise of romantic ideals of Italian nationalism, the idea of a united Italy became very popular, much to the dismay of the reinstalled monarchs. For the next decades, the peninsula would be plagued by revolutionary revolts. The Kingdom of Sardinia, along the help of the Italian revolutionary Giuseppe Garibaldi, took advantage of the instability to conquer and unify Italy. The House of Savoy would rule Italy all the way to World War II. After winning World War I and getting a participation prize, the kingdom's economy collapsed, which led to the rise of fringe political parties. In 1922, the Fascist Party marched onto Rome and convinced the king, Victor Emmanuel III, to appoint an ex-elementary school teacher as prime minister. As you know, Italy joined the Axis powers, but it turns out that losing a war and living under military dictatorship sucks. So in 1943, Victor fired Mussolini and surrendered to the Allies. Italy fell into what was essentially a civil war, with the north being turned into a German puppet state and the south being led by a coalition of anti-fascist political parties and the king, though at this point the king was sidelined from politics. After the war, they held a referendum to decide to either keep the monarchy or turn into a republic. The Italian public had a very split opinion on the monarchy, since many believed the monarchy was partially to blame for the rise of the fascist party. In the end, Republican vote won, thus ending the Kingdom of Italy and establishing the Republic of Italy in 1946. And that's how all the 5 or 6 kingdoms of Italy came to be and ended. This is one of those videos that you kind of watch while having dinner. It's not exactly a very educational, it's more for fun, really. Anyway, thanks for watching, and yeah, see you next time, whenever that is.